Unseasonable temperatures, 52 degrees, but the winds could be a factor today as we bring in Pam Oliver. Pam?
Yeah, Dick, remember when the Giants were 6-2 and rolling? Well, they do too. That's why they still very much believe in themselves. A couple of guys described the mood of the team to me as this. They said it was frustrated, but we are very upbeat. Eli Manning put it this way: we're good enough to win. We just have to start being the kind of team that shows that when the occasion presents itself. Has not worked out in 5 of the last 6 games, as you noted, Dick. Back to you.
No, they haven't, Pam. They've lost 3 out of 7 at home, including the last 3 in a row. And of those 3 losses, they have had leads in the second half. But Michael Strahan is back. It's been a false start every week as to whether he'd be ready. And they said, no, this week finally set to go, and they need him.
And, Dick, I'm real anxious to see how long it is that he's going to be able to go, because I know in talking with other players with the similar injury, most of them have not been able to come back in the amount of time frame that Michael Strahan is attempting to here today. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to make it through the entire ball game. Good question, and of course with the sprained right foot, at least he takes some of the pressure off of Osi Umenyiora, the other defensive end. We'll see how they play that. Giants winning the toss will get the ball first. Chad Morton will return the kickoff from Billy Cundiff, former Dallas Cowboy who was signed week 12 for this purpose. And Sean Payton coming home for the first time as a head coach. He was with the Giants for 4 years, and of course their offensive coordinator in their Super Bowl season in 2000. And Tiki Barber, and there is a very tight affinity between Payton and Barber, which we'll discuss during the course of the game. And now set to go with the holder, Cundiff, getting the game underway. Chad Morton returning from the 11. And gets tripped up. Looked like he had an opening for a lot more. And he gets tripped up after a 21-yard return. Eli Manning has that offensive line, and they get a boost with Sean O'Hara back at center, and they feel they've got some opportunities today. Well, they've had to shuffle the offensive line here over the last couple of weeks. Sean O'Hara did not play last week. They were uncertain until today as to whether or not he was going to be able to play. I would also expect those offensive tackles to be receiving a little help from these outside defensive ends. Giants will start first down from the 33. And they open with 2 tight ends. It's a running play to Tiki Barber. Going outside, and a superb first play of the game as Barber picks up 8 yards, tackled by Fred Thomas in the secondary. The Saints defense, and they're making a change today. Willie Whitehead is going to start at defensive tackle, and they've hung in there despite the fact they've been vulnerable against the big plays in the running game. Well, and don't forget, Hollis Thomas is serving a 4-game suspension, and that has impacted this defensive front. They've not played the run particularly well, and that's something the Giants feel they'll be able to take advantage of. 2nd and 2. Play fake, pressure on Manning, completes to Jim Finn, and Finn close to the first down. Jay Bellamy was right there to make the tackle. You know, Eli Manning obviously has been heavily scrutinized, not only in the last few games that they've been unable to win, but really ever since he arrived here in New York. And I know that, you know, in watching him, I believe it appears that he's pressing a little bit and aiming the football a little bit, you know, when he's throwing. I know in their game against Carolina when they won, he was very efficient, threw the ball exceptionally well. Last week they had some of the turnovers, and ultimately, you know, that's what led to the defeat in last week's game against Philadelphia. Giants will have the first down, and of course it's the mistakes late in the game, as Tom Coughlin talking about the key interception that Manning threw with Cole returning for the score last week for the Eagles. And you wonder whether Manning is affected at all by the success of Phillip Rivers this year and Ben Roethlisberger last year. You know, I don't think so, Dick. I know that it's a topic of discussion. It's good, you know, fodder for the media, but I don't think that Eli Manning pays a lot of attention to any of that. He's trying to do what he can to help his team win a football game today. From the 43, here's Barber trying to go outside. And Mark Simoneau, the middle linebacker, stops Tiki after a gain of 2.
You know, the Saints defense has really been pretty interesting throughout the year. Statistically, they're not a defense that really blows you away. In fact, they rank near the bottom in most statistical categories, and you know, one of the worst in the league in terms of stopping the run. They don't create a lot of turnovers, but you know, the strength for this defense has been the fact that they run exceptionally fast, sideline to sideline, and they play very hard each week.
Rookie Sonoris Moss is into the lineup, and going deep is Manning, and open is Plexico Burress. And Burress, with a stiff arm, goes in, touchdown, Giants. Big start for the Giants, a 55-yard touchdown pass from Eli Manning to Plexico Burress.
Well, this is something that the Giants thought that they could take advantage of. Fred Thomas, he just fell down, and Plexico Burress, who was on a go route, you know, obviously then able to run right by him. I know that Fred Thomas has had some problems this season with giving up the big play, but that one was just because he fell when Plexico was coming off the line.
10th touchdown, most by a Giant since Ernest Gray back in 1980. And of course, the Saints were wary of the size advantage that Burress would present today. That wasn't a factor there, as you mentioned. And that's Eli Manning's longest pass of the year. Jay Feely, with a broken bone in the bottom of his kicking foot, with the extra point. So Manning with the long strike to Burress, who has now caught a touchdown pass in 5 straight games.
Druids Glen Golf Resort, voted European Golf Resort of the Year 2005. A golfer's paradise in the Garden of Ireland. 2 championship golf courses of contrasting design. The luxurious Marriott Druids Glen Hotel and Country Club, featuring 148 specially appointed guest rooms and a magnificent spa and health centre. Visit our driving range, pro shops, golf academy, and get your golfing tips or tuition from our resident PGA teaching professional.
Some people think the internet is a bad thing. A place for mankind to exercise its darkest desires. An open market where you can buy anything you want. Somewhere that is destroying the last of our privacy. Some people think the internet is a bad thing. What do you think?
The NFL enters the final week of the regular season this weekend on NASN, and we've got a Saturday night special presentation as the New York Giants take on Washington in an NFC battle. Live NFL, Giants versus Washington, this Saturday only on NASN.
And the crowd delighted here as the Giants have taken a 7-0 lead over the New Orleans Saints. Plexico Burress actually was held scoreless last week against the Eagles, but had 4 straight games with a TD catch in 6 of the last 7. So he's been a hot streak, obviously favorite receiver for Eli, as Jay Feely on the kickoff. Michael Lewis returning, and a good return for Lewis as he gets out to the 40-yard line. Breeze comes on, Burress celebrating, and the Saints a bit down on the defensive end off the first series.
There was a moment there where I thought, that was a pretty doggone good throw. I can probably play.
My sophomore year against Thomasville, I only got 3 balls. And those 3 went for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. I knew right then that I was on my way.
And the stadium was rocking, it was packed. Got a total of 400-some yards. That's when I knew.
When people stopped calling me Archie's boy, started calling me Peyton, that was a big moment for me.
Haagen-Dazs is so thick and creamy. That's why it melts so slowly in your mouth. so the deliciously rich experience lasts and lasts and lasts. And why not try Bailey's ice cream from Haagen-Dazs, the perfect combination. Haagen-Dazs, the longer-lasting pleasure.
5'9" Steve Smith has emerged as the NFL's premier scoring threat. Don't believe me? He'll tell you.
If you say this ugly face, that means I scored.
Oh my goodness, I don't even know what to tell you about Steve Smith.
Steve Smith touchdown.
Taking candy from a baby. I know somebody better pour water on that man.
Talk about a game-changing player.
You see me again.
Saints with their first offensive play of the game after the Giants touchdown. Pam Oliver reporting that the wind has died down somewhat. Reggie Bush going in motion to the left. Empty backfield for Drew Brees. And he completes the pass to Marcus Colston and gets about 7.5 yards. So the Saints offense, Drew Brees has had the luxury of a terrific offensive line this year. And they've done well despite withstanding injuries to key wide receivers, Troy.
Yeah, and Jamal Brown there on the offensive line making the Pro Bowl, his first Pro Bowl as a second-year player. And, you know, this receiving core here, I know they're without Joe Horn once again, but they do have some talent. Of course, Marcus Colston, the year that he has had unexpectedly when he was drafted. But they have played very well.
Zach Street, a tackle, has reported as a tight end, and the whistle blows and a false start penalty to be marked off against the Saints.
False start, 78, offense, 5-yard penalty, second down.
John Stinchcomb.
Yeah, and there's Michael Strahan. I mean, it's been a long time since he's been able to play. He's back out here trying to see whether or not it's going to hold up and what kind of impact he can have for this defensive unit. I know just having him on the field has got to be uplifting for the entire group.
2nd and 7. From the 43, and the pitch to Reggie Bush. And the Giants hold their ground and don't let Bush get away. He'll lose a yard on the play. Down at the 41, O.C. Umenyiora coming up big.
Yeah, you know, O.C. Umenyiora now in his 3rd game back after he'd missed 5 games with that hip injury, and he's gotten better in each of the previous 2 games. That time he just gets penetration up the field, goes by Jamal Brown. They wanted to get Reggie Bush out to the outside, but Umenyiora, he maintains the containment there on the outside and then forces everything back to the middle.
3rd down and 8. And the quick toss to the tight end, Billy Miller, incomplete. Could not hold on. And the Giants hold on 3rd down and force the Saints to kick. Antonio Pierce applying the hit to the tight end.
Well, it's a good job by the New York Giants defensively, because one of the things that have hurt them over the last several games is whenever their offense has gone down and scored points, the defense has not been able to hold serve. They've given up points of their own. This time they come out, first possession, they go 3 plays and out. Good job by the defensive unit.
You're right, everyone points to the loss of Toomer, Eli's problems, but the defense with injuries, and you mentioned at the outset, has been less than spectacular. Steve Weatherford, the rookie punter, and the ball bounces loose. Chad Morton was there, and the Saints recover. A huge break for the Saints. And it was Jamal Jones who was right there, and the veteran Chad Morton with the turnover, and the Saints get a new life, a first down inside the 20.
Well, and those are the things that Tom Coughlin talks about. I mean, the defense does their job. Now they're going to give the ball back to the offense. Chad Morton looked like he looked it all the way in and then came off his shoulder pads right there. You know, rather than trying to catch it more with his arms and hands, the ball got in on him, came off his shoulder pads, and an unfortunate break for the New York Giants. But now here are the New Orleans Saints inside the 20-yard line.
And an opportunity for Drew Brees Well, along with LaDainian Tomlinson being talked about as the top 2 candidates for most valuable player. First Saints quarterback to go to the Pro Bowl since Archie Manning back in 1979.
Yeah, I just don't think you can say enough about the job that Drew Brees has done this season.
Reggie Bush to the bottom of your picture. From the 18, the handoff to Deuce McAllister, who comes into the game needing 51 yards to go over the 1,000 mark. Taking a look at the Giant defensive unit, of course, welcoming back Michael Strahan, which takes a lot of pressure off the defensive pass rush.
Well, I don't think there's any question that while he was down, their numbers in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback were dramatically down. Not that Michael Strahan had a lot of sacks himself when he was healthy, but when he's attracting the attention that he does, he opens up things for the other players.
Terrence Copper going in motion, and Brees looking for a receiver, going underneath on a short cross to Deuce McAllister, who's tackled inside the 15 by Brandon Short. It'll be a gain of 2.
You know, one of the things you talk about how the defense for New York was able to come up with a key stop. And those are going to be important because, as we know, the New Orleans Saints are the #1 offense in the National Football League, very capable of creating big plays and scoring a lot of points. The defense comes out. They've had problems of their own, and they do a great job. And then all of a sudden they're right back out on the field trying to at least hold the Saints to a field goal attempt on this possession.
And a big down here. The Giants have been the easiest team to score on in the red zone in the entire league, and they call a timeout with 9:31 on the clock. This is what's setting up the Saints' opportunity here on 3rd down, the fumble by Chad Morton.
Now this is my size net.
This is my backhand.
I saw it coming. This is my other team. No boys allowed.
That's my shoe.
There we go. This is my rink.
This is my walk home from the arena.
You're watching NASN, the North American Sports Network, a new and exciting sports channel dedicated to the best in live North American sports 24/7. On NASN, you can experience over 100 live NFL games this season, plus the playoffs and the Super Bowl live. Watch up to 175 regular season NHL games and live postseason, including the Stanley Cup Finals. Feel the excitement of live Major League Baseball with up to 260 regular season games and exclusive coverage of the World Series. NASN also brings you an exclusive lineup of college sports with live college football and basketball. And with a daily lineup of sports news, talk shows, highlights, and analysis, NASN is your channel for the very best in live North American sports. Visit NASN.com for scheduling news and information.
And we're back here at Giant Stadium. There's Chad Morton. It wasn't a fumble, it was a muff, but it does count as a turnover by the Giants. And after 2 stops, creates 3rd down and 6. The ball at the 14. Reggie Bush wide to the left. Brees looks up the middle and getting hit. Will Demps provides the hit on Terrence Copper, incomplete. So the Giants do a good job in the red zone, something that they have not done this year, and that will force a field goal try.
Well, that was a great job defensively there by the New York Giants. That ball looked like it was tipped at the line of scrimmage. Sure enough, Matthias Kiwanuka is the one who got a hand on it. I don't think that it would have been a completed ball anyway, because Will Demps read this out pretty good and made a pretty good jump on the ball to deflect it. Now, what we've seen is the Saints try to spread out the Giants defensively, which is what we expected, but so far the Giants have held up very well.
John Carney will attempt a 32-yard field goal. And down the middle and good. So Carney gives the Saints 3 points as a result of the turnover. The Giants in front of New Orleans 7-3.
Technology has made your morning easier. Why not your shave? The Philips Smart Touch XL is designed to shave more with every touch, with 3 shaving rings in each shaving head. And because it pivots to stay on your face and neck, even tricky hairs are cut. Simplicity is making every stroke count.
It's no fun when you can't sleep. Time seems to stand still. You just can't switch off. And it feels like you're the only one. But you don't have to put up with it. Nitol can help you drift off into a natural sleep. So you wake up refreshed in the morning. Good mornings follow a good Nitol.
Experience all the best live NHL games on NASN. Log on to NASN.com for scheduling news and information.
Forcing a punt, and then after the turnover, holding the Saints to a field goal. Tiki Barber, a great favorite here in his 10th and final year in the National Football League. His final game being played here at Giant Stadium. The wind blowing the ball off the tee, so Billy Cundiff will call on some help for this kickoff. Started the game with the wind gusting at 35 miles an hour, going from right to left. Sean Payton and Reggie Bush, one of 2 great rookies that Payton has had this year, along with Marcus Colston, the wide receiver.
Well, they really have. I mean, everyone had thought that Reggie Bush would come in and play, play well, and he has here over the second half of the season. But then not only Marcus Colston, but then Jari Evans, another late pick for them in the draft, who's had a great year for him.
Deep kick with the wind helping Cundiff, and here's Chad Morton. And Morton skips out of bounds, and they'll mark it at the 23. Well, Tiki Barber said, I didn't want to be told to leave. He's leaving the game on top. Check his last 2 seasons. Most total yards in the NFL, 2nd most rushing yards to Larry Johnson of the Chiefs, and the 3rd most NFL in catches by running backs. Pretty good numbers, but he says he knows when to get out.
Yeah, in fact, he said he knew very early in the season that this was going to be his last year. Physically, the game has taken its toll, but more than that, mentally, he said he's found it harder and harder each week to get ready to play.
From the 24, and they give it to Shockey, but Shockey won't go anywhere as he is hit and dropped for a loss on the play. And it was Scott Shanley right now for a game break. Joe Buck from LA. Welcome, Joe.
Well, hello there, Dick. Former Giant Ron Dane has 2 touchdown runs today, 5 over his last 3 games. Not a good start for Eli's brother Peyton Manning with the Colts in their fight for the number 2 seed. Let's go back to Dick, Troy, Pam, and Artie.
There's that old familiar voice I know.
Artie won't mind that, Joe. Will you do it on every game break? That's the question. Loss of 7, 2nd down and 17. And they hand off to Tiki Barber, and Barber, not much. Jason Kraft, the nickel back, coming up to make the play, and a gain of only 1. The Saints did not defend the run at all against Liddell Betts last week, but they have been sharp thus far.
Yeah, they actually, when they came out, the Giants today have run the ball well. Now, they didn't run the ball particularly well, on that last play, but I know last week was very discouraging for Tom Coughlin, because in the second half in that game against Philadelphia, they did not run the ball well at all. Now they come into this game against a Saints defense that has struggled. Back to the second worst in the National Football League stopping the run, and the Giants fully expect to be able to have much more success than they did a week ago.
Out of the shotgun on 3rd and 17. Here's Tiki as a receiver, and Barber goes down, but way short of the first down. So the Saints defense holds, and a punting situation coming up. Charles Grant, defensive lineman, with help from Shanley and Fujita. So Jeff Feagles will come in to kick it away from inside his 10. Michael Lewis to return.
You know, I was talking to Feagles before the game. He's going to be kicking right into the wind here, going in this direction, and he said he has to change the way his technique when he is kicking into the wind.
And there's the effects of it, as off the side of the foot, and will be stopped shy of midfield. So Jeff Feagles, one of the better punters, and playing in his 302nd consecutive games. A flag is down, and Bill Carollo will explain. The ball stops dead on the Giant 49.
Boy, so far special teams has not helped out the New York Giants.
The muffed kick by Chad Morton, and now a 30-yard punt from deep in his own end by Feagles.
Now, I talked about Jeff Feagles changing his technique when he is punting into the wind. Whatever that technique was there, I think I'd stay away from it on the next punt.
Go back to the drawing board, perhaps.
Illegal touching on the kicking team, number 85. Went out of bounds, came back in, was the first to touch it. It's a 5-yard penalty. The receiving team has elected to take the 5 yards from the end of the kick.
Well, you can sure sense the wind in Bill Carollo's microphone. They'll mark 5 yards off. David Tyree went out, then came in, touched it.
TV Digital ist da. 14 Tage volles Programm. Top-Übersichtlichkeit im großen Format. Neu und einzigartig in Deutschland. Komplett mit allen Programmen von Kabel Digital Home. Plus ARD, RTL, Pro7 und Co. in einem Heft. Alle 31 Kabel Deutschland Programme mit Bewertung und allen Sendeterminen. Bestellen Sie jetzt Ihr Abo unter 080 5 99 77 44. TV Digital, das ist die Zukunft.
Call and text your T-Mobile mates more, so you won't miss a thing. One great rate on pay-as-you-go. Mates rates from T-Mobile.
The NFL regular season is nearing its climax, and we've got a live and exclusive doubleheader tonight on NASN. First up, two teams with big postseason aspirations meet up as New Orleans take on the New York Giants. And then it's two more postseason hopefuls as Cincinnati play Denver. A live NFL doubleheader tonight only on NASN.
Giants in front of the Saints 7-3, 7:04 to go in the first. And for the second straight possession, the Saints will be starting in Giant territory. First down from the 44. McAllister. And a good run, gets tackled at the 35. About a yard and a half shy. Will Demps coming up from free safety to make the tackle.
You know, and what a year Deuce McAllister has had. And, you know, the injury that he had last year, reconstructive knee surgery, missed the last 11 ball games. The amount of time that he put in the offseason to get himself prepared to have a big year this season. And then, of course, the addition of Reggie Bush, his workload has been reduced, but he's played very well.
And Mike Carney, who hasn't done much except for the Dallas game when he scored 3 touchdowns, gets the call
And it's enough for the first down for the Saints.
Yeah, and one of the things we're already noticing from the New Orleans Saints, and something that they like to do each and every week, they run a pretty fast tempo as far as getting plays called. A big part of that is Sean Payton getting the play to Drew Brees very quickly, but they don't spend a lot of time at the line of scrimmage once they get up there. They get it snapped pretty quick.
And they got a lot of imagination with that offense too with Payton. Brees will swing it out to Reggie Bush. And the pass incomplete, bringing up second down. The Saints capturing only their third division title in 40 years of their existence last week. And what a feather in the cap for the first-year head coach, Sean Payton.
Yeah, it is, and yet they lost the game last week against Washington, but because of the other losses within the division, they were able to win the division, as you said, and it took until about Wednesday before it really sunk in with the players and to where they were able to actually enjoy the accomplishment.
Second down and 10. Brees stepping up and dropping the pass was Reggie Bush, so they try to go to Bush twice in a row, cannot hold on, and it'll be third down.
Well, we want to keep an eye on Michael Strahan and see how that foot is doing and whether or not we can see any effects from it, working against John Stinchcomb and, trying to get a little bit of pressure. Right now, anyway, they've not given any help to Stinchcomb. They're letting him go up against Strahan one-on-one, and my guess is they'll continue with that until Strahan shows that he can be more of a factor in that pass rush.
Three-man line with Kiwanuka, Cofield and Strahan, and the pitch up front, and an incomplete pass. Kiwanuka right in the middle of it. Kind of an awkward play, and Reggie Bush. So that offensive possession kind of fizzled for the Saints.
Well, you got Jamar Nesbitt here, the guard. He's going to pull. They're going to run the shovel pass underneath to Reggie Bush, and what Drew Brees thought he was going to do and then what Reggie Bush did were two different things. Reggie Bush has got to stay in front of Fred Robbins, the defensive tackle who got penetration, and that's why the play looked as ugly as what it was.
Billy Cundiff has come in to try a 51-yard field goal. He is the long kicker and tries a long one, and Cundiff's kick is no good. So Carney makes good from 32 yards earlier, and Cundiff misses from 51. So the Saints in two possessions in Giant territory have just 3 points to show for it. And the Giants will have good field position now.
Well, and that's the key. And again, to go back to this Giants defense and the job that they've done in the last two possessions, when you're talking about the field position that the Saints have had, and then to only come away with one field goal after those two possessions is really saying a lot. And now, as you said, Dick, this Giants offense now has unbelievable field position of their own.
Went 67 yards on just 4 plays on the opening drive as Manning hit Plexico Burress. Hand off to Tiki Barber, and Barber going to the 45 as we check in with Pam Oliver.
Yeah, Dick, I think you'll enjoy this. Plexico Burress told me before the game he'll be playing with a little chip on his shoulder today. He said, how on earth does a guy of my caliber not make the Pro Bowl? Not only not make the Pro Bowl, but didn't even get a vote. He says, I know people don't like me, but that's ridiculous. After he scored that touchdown, he came over and reiterated that point to me. He's playing with a little extra incentive today, Dick.
Wonder how many Giants are playing with chips on their shoulders.
Apparently a lot. For those that didn't make the Pro Bowl.
2nd and 5, and the pass thrown out to Sonoris Moss, and not letting go is Jay Bellamy, the strong safety who's starting for the injured Omar Stoutmire. No gain on the play, and a preview of Sonoris Moss, who is inactive for 10 games this year. Didn't catch a pass against the Eagles last week. The 2nd-round pick out of the University of Miami. Tom Coughlin telling us he figures in some plays this week.
Well, they're trying to get him more involved. I mean, he missed so much time because of the injury, missed even most of training camp, that they've got to be very specific with how they're going to use him, but he's healthy, and they hope to be able to get him the ball often here today.
3rd down and 5 on the Giant 46. And the Giants will be called for a false start. And that's going to be a big penalty here.
False start, 17, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Chip on his shoulder, Plexico Burress, 5 yards. So instead of 3rd and 5, they've got to go 10 yards now.
Well, I've often said it, you know, as a wide receiver, you know, you're always coached to watch the ball, and when the ball moves, that's when you go. But there's no question that you do hear the quarterback. And then in addition to that, he saw the defensive lineman there move himself. And then Plexico's the one who gets called. It was already going to be a difficult third down conversion, but now at 3rd and 10. The Giants over the last 2 weeks have not converted many.
And the timeout called as the play clock was coming down to 0.
Timeout, the Giants. That's the team's second charge timeout.
So they've used up 2 timeouts now, and had they been called for delay of the game, they would have been looking at 3rd and 15. Here's the NFC's playoff picture. We know that the Chicago Bears have home field throughout the NFC playoffs.